I'm Jenny Thomas.
And I'm her friend, Ellie David. We decided to create a podcast that embodies what you would talk about with your closest friends.
So sit back and relax and put your headphones in.
Because you're listening to the Honestly Unfiltered podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Honestly Unfiltered podcast. Today, Ellie and I are here to discuss the Prince Harry interviews. Dun, dun, dun. Ellie, how are you? We're going to rip the Band-Aid off and get right into this.
That's it. I'm just dandy, but I am, I woke up this morning thinking about everything I wanted to say. And we hadn't even finished all the interviews yet because the GMA one, interview with Michael Strahan came out this morning.
And there's another one on tonight. The full Michael Strahan is on at 8:30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I almost forgot about that. Okay.
I figure he's probably going to say more of the same on all of them,
I was wondering how he was going to, how the interviewers, we had Anderson Cooper, Michael Strahan, and then I keep forgetting the British guy's name. Crap. I'll have to look it up. But he has been with Harry, friendly, somebody that Harry trusts in the British media for, I think they said over 20 years. So that's why he chose him. Now, he did fly to California to do that interview, but we were scrambling, you and I, yesterday to try to see, how can we watch this? And it was like impossible. We couldn't figure it out. Of course, plenty of it's come out today, but I would like to watch the full interview. But I felt like all three journalists really did a very good job about getting different questions out there. And because I thought I'm just going to sit through the same thing over and over again. And I really didn't feel that way. I mean, there was a couple things that were a little redundant, kind of hard to avoid, but I thought they did a really good job.
Tom Bradby is the name of the guy from the ITV interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
I thought his name was Tom Brady the other day. I was like, oh, that's, interesting.
And they've messed it up in a couple.
Yes, that's why. Yeah, they did call him Tom Brady, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw it a couple times and I did like a double take. And I'm like, what why don't we start with the biggest takeaway? So I want to hear yours before I give you mine. Your biggest takeaway, kind of, I guess, aha, like moment or thoughts or whatever.
Okay, there's two of them. Well, the biggest takeaway, what I feel was probably the biggest, is that he and William really didn't get along their whole lives and really weren't friends. That's really the big, I guess to the outside world, there was always a united front and they were always together at these events and they were labeled the Fab Four. But yeah, William was an ass to him. I mean, at Eton, wasn't allowed to talk to him. And that was after this Diana died.
It's funny that you should say that because that was my big takeaway was that this is why he's doing all of this. His need to obviously protect his wife and clear his name. The narrative has been set by the British media all those years ago that these two brothers were just these, rough and tumble, loyal brothers, had this fantastic relationship. And they constantly set up these, illusions only to be able to break them down later. They did it with the Fab Four too, where when Meghan got involved, Harry and Meghan got involved, all of a sudden it was, William and Kate and Harry and Meghan are the Fab Four. They were never the Fab Four. No. They weren't getting along with each other, but that was a great narrative for them to set so that then they could later tear it all apart. But, Harry had to show without a shadow of a doubt that him and his brother and his relationship was never good, meaning it was not Meghan that came in and caused all the friction and the problems at all. It was already there. In my opinion, William's need to try to control Harry and control his own narrative, and how whatever Harry's doing might affect him. And Harry finally going, no, I'm going to do what the hell I want because this is what makes me happy and you have no say in it. And boom, there you go.
Right.
fireworks.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny you should say that about William basically bullied him. The fit Prince William threw about his beard, about Prince Harry's beard, that shocked me.
Me
That
too.
because I know it's a rule that I guess British, the men, you can't have a beard, wear a beard in uniform, but his grandmother, the Queen, said it was okay. And Prince William fought with him for a week and wanted him to shave it off, knowing that he felt that was his protection. That was his new Harry. That was his, beards are like that for a lot of men.
Yeah.
My son is one of them. My son is absolutely one of them. That's why he has not shaved his beard. He trims it, but he feels like some kind of way with it that makes him more confident.
I was shocked by it too. It showed the level of control that William, I think, was trying to have, over Harry, and I think he had gotten away with it quite often. Because I don't know, Harry just strikes me as somebody that even on his worst day, he was probably pretty laid back, just has that personality and, doesn't sweat the small stuff. I know he's, of course, dealt with mental, health issues and anxiety and PTSD and all kinds of stuff. But I mean, as far as like his core personality, and he was probably easily just kind of moved around and manipulated because he didn't really care.
Yeah.
And it just sounds like it got to a point where, he was like, look, I'm an adult. Like, I'm not taking your shit anymore.
Right.
And he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He went to the Queen. William, you were not the king
yet.
Not even close as far as I'm concerned. He was still alive. Your father's still alive. You got a minute.
He's probably got about 20 years if his father holds out like his parents.
But when this was happening, he was even further away from
it.
So it was just very interesting to hear that was an issue. Like, why would you do that to your brother? Why would you even cause that stress? It sounds like he's extremely resentful that he has not had the same luxuries of making his own decisions.
And his brother is his puppet and was his lackey,
Yeah. Like Harry pointed out in one of the interviews, and this is where I'm going to screw up because it's kind of hard to, I wasn't very good when I was making notes of, okay, Strahan interview, freaking, Anderson Cooper interview. But in one of the interviews, I believe it was the Strahan interview, but I could be wrong. He was referencing, they asked for an example of how the British media, influenced, these narratives and stuff. One of the examples he gave is like when they were teenagers, William and Harry, they would spin all this news out and we all heard it. Harry's the party boy. He's, drinking and using drugs and blah, blah, blah. William was doing it all with him.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
They made Harry the fall boy. Because it was always, we have to protect the heir. We have to protect, William, who's going to be on the throne one day. And that was just one example. There's, I'm sure, so many, but it just blows my mind.
Well,
people don't get it.
And, a lot of royal biographers have written that when Prince William and Catherine graduated from college, he broke up with her. He broke up with her because he wanted to sow his oats and he didn't want a long distance relationship. Basically, he wanted to bang everybody while he was in the Royal Air Force. Then when it was time for him to get married, basically the Queen put the screws to him like she did Charles and said, you're going to get married, pick someone. And he went back to Catherine because she was waiting there with bated breath. Of course, she was going to, say yes.
Yeah.
She's not her own woman. Speaking of Catherine, this was not in any of the interviews, but I heard it from a couple of different sources. This weekend, the story came out over the bridesmaids' dresses when they leaked the narrative that Meghan made Catherine cry. And the full story is that Meghan bought the bridesmaids' dresses, custom Givenchy dresses for her, for herself and for all of the little girl bridesmaids. Paid to have the designers from Givenchy come to the palace to fit them and alter them. Catherine sent Meghan a text and said, these dresses are horrible. They are too big. They need to be remade. And I checked with Alexander McQueen and he said so too.
And these dresses the measurements were taken right in front of Kate.
Mm-hmm. The measurements were taken.
So
and
they were made by measurement.
They weren't even altered yet. They hadn't even had chance for someone to come and fix them and alter them. And I guess she spoke to her so terribly when Harry got home. He found her in a ball crying because she was just felt so bad that she upset Catherine.
And this was 4 days.
4 days before the wedding. 4 days before the wedding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's real fucking nice to do your future sister-in-law.
Yeah, I believe they have like the actual receipts for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is the whole thing. And so there's proof that the narrative the press put out, which we believe was leaked by, somebody, in the royal family.
Apparently Camilla.
Could have been Camilla.
Because
I think William's done it. I think Kate's done it. I think Camilla's done it. I think they're all guilty, honestly. I mean, I hope Charles hasn't, but it's possible, it's possible.
I mean, he said Camilla had to rehabilitate her image. So she made a deal with the British press, make me look good and I'll serve you up my stepson.
Yeah.
How horrible is that? And if everybody knows it, for your father to marry that woman, to treat your child like that, like seriously.
Are we surprised?
No. I mean, look, she's
Especially
a homewrecker. She's a homewrecker to begin with. I mean, now, so she fucked over Diana and she fucked over his kid. I seriously hope that Princess Diana is haunting that bitch in her sleep. It's no wonder she won't sleep at the palace.
She deserves it.
She deserves it. She deserves everything she got she deserves everything she's got coming to her, which is really, she does not deserve to be queen consort. And I just, whatever bad press comes her way, she deserves every bit of it.
And what I just heard, and it's one of the history people that I really enjoy on TikTok, and she's literally, all she really talks about is actual history, and she gives you like fun facts about history and stuff like that. I'll have to look again to see her name. She all of a sudden got on the Harry and Meghan bandwagon, which is fine. Like, whatever. Everybody's doing it. We're doing it. That's, we're not on the bandwagon though, people. We've been here for years. Okay. And I didn't really care for her opinion so much on, the whole, why is Harry talking and blah, 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 blah. She kind of went to the other side of, where my opinion is, but she did share something that she said was told to her, that there's proof of this, that the whole reason that Queen Elizabeth said yes to her giving, she gave permission for Camilla to become queen consort was because Elizabeth wanted to use money from Charles's inheritance.
Okay.
To pay off the lawsuit damages for Andrew.
Oh.
And he said, okay, I'll do it if you allow this.
So Andrew needed his brother's money.
Mm-hmm. And we all know the Queen had a soft spot for Andrew. So
yeah.
Again, this is new information that I got, but I was like, get out of here. I definitely need to verify and like look more into it, but it makes sense, because it was all of a sudden. I mean, there had been like hard lines drawn, like that's not happening. And I feel like it is a betrayal. I think that's one more betrayal I'm sure Harry felt, but even with all the shit that Camilla has delivered to these boys' lives, in my opinion, and the suffering of their mother and everything, the way I heard him talk about her, even though he was calling her out, he was compassionate. I mean, he was saying things like he has empathy for her, and what she went through, with the institution, with the media, the British media, So at the end of the day, he's able to be empathetic, even though he's trying to hold people accountable, so that impresses me about him.
It does. And you know what? Speaking of history, what I found to be the most intriguing thing, kind of honorable in a way, because Prince Harry said that when he was asked by both Anderson Cooper and Michael Strahan why he was telling his story. He said, because I want it to be historically correct. When generations look back at the history, I want it to be accurate, not rumors of what it was and what it wasn't. It needs to be historically accurate. And that is a man from the royal family appreciating that the heritage and the stories should be passed down accurately. Like he's more of a royal than they want to give him credit for.
Well, the reality though is when you talk about royal accuracy, historical accuracy, I'm sorry, they haven't been that concerned with that. I think Elizabeth was, but
Yes.
you know, it's more, you know, smoke and mirrors and fluff, you know, and that's how they want to keep it. But they've been doing that for generations. I mean, even Elizabeth, you know, it, this is the problem that a lot of people have with the royal institution, you know, is that there is very big time problems with racism, with misogyny, with, you know, all kinds of, you know, issues that and things that they've perpetuated the cycle of. And they just keep kind of shoving it under the rug and okay, don't look over there, look at this shiny thing, you know. And I think Harry is the very not think I don't think he's the first to ever try to blow that image up because I mean Margaret, you know, Elizabeth's sister, definitely, you know, threw some things out there for everybody as much as she could. But he is definitely and Diana, obviously, but he is definitely the first one that I feel like does not give a shit.
No.
And is like, yes, I love my family, but I am an adult and I love my family, my wife and my children more than this institution. And he's the first one to just say, forget it. And yes, he has to make money. He is the prince. No matter what he says or does, nothing will ever change that. They could strip him of every title to the whole world. He is Prince Harry. And that entails danger for him. He has to be able to protect himself, his family. You know, he's a sitting duck in a lot of respects, you know, and why shouldn't he be able to have a luxurious, lavish lifestyle?
Right.
Why not?
Yeah.
The rest of them, in my opinion, have done nothing to deserve what they have either.
Right.
They were born into this. That's it. You know, so what makes them so much more, you know what I mean? It's like
what frosts my ass is that the British press is complaining that I don't know how many times I've heard them say, well, he's sitting on $100 million. I'm sure he made $100 million. Why get paid to tell his story? Well, first of all, why not? If you're going to tell it, you might as well get paid. And number two, they want to complain about Harry making $100 million on all of these things to set up his life in the United States, while the royal family spends money lavishly. Charles has someone that puts his toothpaste on his toothbrush every morning. How fucking extravagant and privileged is that? I mean, seriously.
Taxpayer money.
Yeah, with taxpayer money. Yes, exactly.
What kills me too is, and I think I said this to you, and I really, really frost my ass when it's the American media, because that I don't understand at all. At least with the British media, it's like, okay, these people have been, you know, fed this their entire lives. You know, they're the royals. They were chosen by God. This is how we honor our country, blah, 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 blah. American media, I don't know. But no one bitches about celebrities doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And essentially, they are celebrities. I'm sorry. I know they're royalty, but they are celebrities.
Yes.
Celebrity figures. But when a celebrity writes a tell-all book, I've never in my life heard people lose their shit.
Yeah.
And some of these celebrities even have other family members in the public eye. There's presidents' children that have written tell-alls. There's, you name it, people have written it and no one gives a shit. So why are we protecting the royal family so fiercely?
We already know they're dysfunctional. This just confirms it.
Yeah. I think it's just, if you have made up your mind that Meghan is the villain, it's just angering you more and more for there to be proof that you're wrong. And I'm sorry, you're looking more and more like a racist than you did before, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I mean, there's just too much out there now for you to still have the opinions that you have. You're just choosing to, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I was
And it's
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, finish your thought.
Well, I just bring up the racism thing. I really liked that when remind me of the British reporter's name again.
Tom Brady. We'll just call him Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. But when he said essentially something along the lines that Meghan called the people have been critical of Meghan calling the royal family a racists. And Harry said, no, she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard this over and over again. And she didn't.
No, she
never did.
The press did.
That's right. She, in the Oprah interview, revealed that there were questions and she wouldn't even name who did it because that's how classy she is.
Mm-hmm.
And he confirmed it, Harry did, about what the skin color of their child would be, how dark their child might be. And even Harry said, from his own point of view, as being someone that has grown up in that environment, they didn't even look at it as racist. They looked at it as like racially biased, which is a different thing.
Right.
And she, again, never actually called them racist ever.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, I liked how he talked about the unconscious bias that he had prior to her. And he said, when he included himself in the narrative and said, I was probably racist before her as well. And Anderson Cooper said, you were racist? And he said, well, no, I wouldn't say I'm racist, but it's an unconscious bias. You don't, he said, I see it more now. He said, I understand it now the way I see it, because I see it through their eyes, through his wife's eyes. So, and that does bring up a lot of a good point. I mean, we don't have time to get into it today, but yeah, it is something that you don't understand unless someone you love has to deal with that.
Yeah, it's hard to have empathy. And that's the thing about racial bias, is that we all have it.
Oh, yeah.
And the only people that scream the loudest and rail the loudest against it, I'm sorry, you're stepping over into racism. That's when you are not willing to even acknowledge that you could have any prejudice in your life.
Right.
That's ridiculous. We all have it. And it's not just a black white thing.
No,
there's all kinds of, there's handicap bias. There's people that are overweight. There are people that have bias against them. I mean, there's the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But it again was more of him showing how the media spins it to make her look, a certain way, to make Meghan seem like she's attacking. No, she's defending herself. There's a difference. When people attack you, you are allowed to defend yourself, unless you're in the royal family, apparently. But
yeah, then you gotta just feed the narrative. It's like you're a character in their show, and you have to play the role that they want you to play without in the press. And Harry, Harry was the first one to say, no, I don't have to. A lot of people have said to him this week, and he's answered the question. Al Roker surprised me this morning. I was watching the Today Show in the third hour after the Strahan interview. I really do like Al Roker, and I'm shocked. He said that he did not feel that Harry should write the book and tell his story, that he should have waited for resolution. Now, I know Al Roker has been sick and in the hospital and having some issues, but he can't be that out of touch with reality where he does not see what's going on, and there will never be resolution with this. And
again, why are we defending the royal family so fiercely?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I don't get it.
I can understand a lot of, he didn't like the way they treated his wife. And I understand that. He watched them do it to his mother, and he wasn't going to lose another woman in his life. He wasn't going to have his children go through what he went through, losing a mother because of the press and this and that. Why shouldn't he be allowed to tell his story? Everybody has a truth. Because that narrative doesn't fit you and your mold or your family's mold, doesn't mean it didn't happen. Doesn't mean it's not true. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean we're not allowed to talk about it. Harry's not allowed to talk about it. If you're uncomfortable with it, you don't listen to it. You don't
Yeah.
watch the interview. You don't read the book. You know, it's like Harry said, when the abuser silences you, the abuser is still abusing.
Mhm.
So the truth shall set you free.
Yeah. Listen, you and I both know, you make a good point. We both have experienced that before, and I think we've said it before. You have a right to tell your side of the story. Yours. Now people are criticizing him over certain things,
Yeah, there's a couple things, and we'll get to that I didn't care
Yeah.
for that he put.
Which I didn't really want to touch on until I read the book,
Yeah.
because some of that is still kind of just leaks and things, so I want to make sure the context what is the context, because we're
Yeah.
getting little snippets that, isolated by itself, it sounds like, why the fuck would you tell that? But I have a feeling when we actually read the book, we're going to get a little bit different perspective, but I could be wrong. But, you know, I just I feel for somebody that has just been dragged through the mud and, wants a chance to, clear their name. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I feel like bigger than anything, bigger than even protecting his wife, he wanted to make sure that the world knew, oh, no, no. My brother and I have had a shitty relationship for years, and we've struggled. And yes,
Mm-hmm.
I love him and I know he loves me. Like so many of us can relate.
Yeah.
Just because you're calling it out doesn't mean you don't love someone.
Right.
You can love people that are extremely abusive to you,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean that it's okay or that it's a healthy relationship.
No.
And it was important that people understand that it wasn't Megan coming in and wrecking this beautiful love story of brotherhood.
Mhm.
It's like, no, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
I think Harry finally found an ally.
He did.
He found somebody. Listen, this was no easy undertaking, and there was no guarantee at the end of the road how this was going to end.
Harry found someone strong enough to take it on with him, is what he found.
Exactly.
The other,
Exactly.
anybody else that he dated in the past, they probably knew, and they probably bounced because they weren't going to deal with it. They
Yeah.
weren't strong enough to take it on.
And you're absolutely right. And they've talked about a couple relationships that ended because of that.
Mhm.
And not only was she willing to take on the institution, but then she was willing to defect with him
Mhm.
if that's what it took, with no idea of where they were going to go, if
Mhm.
they would be safe, how they would make money, none of it. I mean, she was an actress, but with all this heat on you,
Mhm.
who's going to touch her with a 10-foot pole?
No.
So she basically sacrificed her career,
The
in my
royal
opinion, at least for now. I mean, maybe down the line, but
the royal family's reach stretches so far out of the UK, it's not even funny. Meghan will never work as an actress again. And they're lucky, Harry and Meghan are lucky that they found outlets to tell their story, that people love them, because the royal family, they have their hands in everything. And, studio heads, it goes beyond, it goes so far. I mean, come on, the back workings of politics and all that.
listen, the royal family ain't met Tyler Perry. And let me tell you something.
I love
If
him.
somebody can take on the royal family, it's Tyler. I mean,
Yeah.
as far
Oh,
as
yeah.
reach, I mean, and I think they made the right connections.
Mhm.
Oprah, Tyler Perry.
She didn't even
I
know
mean,
Tyler Perry. He called her. He reached out to her.
yeah, because he saw what he thought was an abusive
Yeah.
relationship,
Yeah.
and it triggered him from
Mhm.
his trauma from childhood. And she didn't even respond to him right away.
Yeah.
Months and months and months, over a year, I think, went by before she ever even reached out to him.
Yeah.
So it's, I just, again, for the people that have chosen to hate her and essentially really turn on Harry at this point, I don't think anything that he's doing is going to change that. Maybe
Mm-mm.
for some people, but not for that many,
No.
But I applaud him for putting it out there, and defending himself and defending his wife and
Mhm.
defending his mother too.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, we haven't even touched on the trauma that he felt from her death, the fact that for 11 years after she died, or it was 10 years because he was 21 or 23 when he saw everything. I am not sure. But for 10 years after she died, he thought maybe she was still alive and just faked her death and was going to call for him one day. And would wake up in the morning and say, maybe today's the day.
Yeah, that really blew my mind. And he said that William thought the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that they both thought it.
It is a rumor. I mean, it could be plausible because she was so miserable. But I would have thought if that's something she would have done, she would have told her boys.
No, I think if that was actually something that she would have done, she probably would have done it like that, like just completely gone. It would be too risky. They were young,
Yeah.
But look, it's the reality is that's not what happened.
Mm-mm.
And the only thing that, and I think, tell me if you agree with this, but I feel like he's still, even though he knows she's dead, I don't think he is 100% sure that it was an accident.
No, he's not. And I will tell you that this weekend I watched the Diana investigations on Discovery Plus. This Discovery Plus you've got me sucked into. There are a lot of irregularities.
Mm-hmm.
The French police, all the reports, they insist that Henri Paul was going 121 miles an hour. Harry says in the book, and he says in the interviews, I wanted to drive through the tunnel at the speed my mother was traveling, 65 miles an hour. So that's something that I've not heard anywhere can be confirmed that it really was only 65 miles an hour. I think that he probably doesn't want to open Pandora's box because he knows he may not be able to come back from that. What would he do? How would he react? How would that hurt him? How would it hurt William?
Mm-hmm.
If they found out that it was Charles. I personally think it was Philip, but hey.
Yeah, I believe that. And I want to say that Anderson Cooper asked him this question, and that's kind of his response was like, I don't see what to gain from it.
Right.
I don't see how it would be helpful at this point. And if it was Philip, he's dead and gone.
Yeah.
I definitely get down with that theory over Charles.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. But or just the institution, who knows? Somebody that took it upon themselves, or a group of somebodies that, because listen, the royals, yes, they are ultimately, persona non grata. Okay. But there's people in the institution that have a lot at stake. They have a lot of power.
Yeah.
They have a lot of influence. They live lavish lives as well. And holding on to their positions is very important to them. So is it beyond the scope that some couple guys or whoever could come up with a plot that, no, it's not beyond the scope in my, opinion. But I agree. I don't see what there is to gain from it other than just re-traumatizing the family and the world, really.
What they said I haven't finished the series. They claim there's a white Fiat, possibly. Eyewitness saw a white Fiat on Princess Diana's car. Now, several eyewitnesses came forward and spoke and gave statements of the things that they saw at different times. And the woman that was running the French investigation said, we didn't have anything to corroborate that. We couldn't find anyone to back up the story, so we can't use it. What the friend, the best friend of Henri Paul, spoke in the interview, and he said he wasn't a drunk. He didn't drink. He would never. The amount of alcohol that they said was in his system, because he didn't rarely drank, he would have been on the floor. What they suspected, because of the flash bulbs, they say that a motorcycle cut him off and flashed into the car, and that's what blinded Henri Paul. One of the investigators said what it could have been was an industrial strength light, that somebody specifically did that at that right time so that they would crash.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
there's a lot of possibilities. So,
yeah. And like I said, I think that there's been enough out there
mhm,
and circulated all these years that you can't help. I mean, if that was your mother
mhm,
with and you had no closure and there was all this stuff swirling around, yeah, you would totally be constantly wondering. It would make the healing process so much harder, getting closure so much harder. That's why he went through the tunnel because he thought that that maybe would give him some closure. It did confirm for him that she was dead. It kind of reignited all of that, but it definitely reignited some serious pain for him,
mhm.
and grief, we know grief is sneaky. As much as he talked about his need to he couldn't stop feeling guilty about the fact that he didn't cry. He only cried one time, he said.
Yeah, when they
I
lowered
believe
her.
it took him years and years of therapy. That's when, everybody's talking about his doing mushrooms and yeah, he did medical treatments
Mhm.
with psychotherapists with these psychedelics, which is treatment that, we're
Aaron
using
Rodgers
more
did
and
it.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Aaron Rodgers just did ayahuasca
Yeah.
in Brazil or wherever the hell he was, but Costa Rica or something. But there's medical, procedures that are now being done with this to treat PTSD and trauma and anxiety and all kinds of stuff. So that's what he was doing. Now I know, if I hear one more British person say cocaine, I'm gonna lose my mind. But
Right.
he did cocaine when he was a kid. So did William, when they were teenager, young, 20s, whatever. But that's not what this was. This was to help him. But he said it did help him. And he finally got to a place where he realized I don't have to cry
Mhm.
for my mother to know how much I loved her and how much I miss her. And really what she would want is for me to be happy, not to be crying. Um, but that must have been just so hard. I mean, I don't know. You always feel like you're not grieving right, the right way.
I can completely understand that because there's a time in my life where I could not cry over the loss of someone, and I would do everything in my power to try to make myself cry. I didn't understand why I couldn't cry. I would force myself to listen to the most masochistic music, stuff that would definitely always just set me off. Nothing. And then one day I did, and it wouldn't stop. So
Yeah. Careful.
now I tear up all the time. So careful
Be
what you
careful
wish
what you
for.
wish for. I also want to point out that, he said it over and over again, and I believe it. Harry did everything he could to try to reach out to his family privately.
Mhm.
And every time he tried, the conversations were leaked,
Mhm.
which, okay, well, if that was his father and his brother, then, and Kate and Camilla or whatever. So that's why he felt like he was forced to come out publicly with this stuff, and with these, his truths and what really has broke down those relationships. And I believe him. And not for nothing, but the proof just keeps rolling in.
Mhm.
So both 60 Minutes, Anderson Cooper made an announcement, and then Michael Strahan I saw not that long ago. They did reach out to the palace for
Mhm.
comment. And what did both of them want?
They
The
wanted
full
the
interview.
prior to airing. Yes. That's why,
Yeah.
so they can leak it.
Yeah, and hurry up and come up with, some alternatives.
Right.
And both organizations said, "And that's something we never do."
Right.
So, yeah, royal family, this is not the British media, it's the
Nope.
American media.
Yep.
We play by different rules. We're not beholden to you.
You're in Megan's court.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
did too.
and there you go. Just one more. To me, proof positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got no problem with that. Can we just see what you got real quick? So, don't worry, you can trust us.
Just give us the
You
cliff notes.
we're trustworthy, I swear. It's like, yeah, hell no. Nice try.
Yeah, they'd leak that shit all over the place.
And I agree with Harry. Silence is betrayal. I have
Mhm.
said
I
this
agree with you.
before. I've dealt with that. You've dealt with that. You know, if you don't come out and speak against it, to me, you're saying it's true.
Mhm.
If you don't step up and defend my wife and say that's enough, if you don't go to the media as the royal family and go, no more, you back
Mhm.
off, or X, Y, and Z is going to happen, you're complicit. I mean, they are complicit. And I'm sorry, even Elizabeth, I think, did not go far enough
No. Why?
in
So
some
so
abuse.
here's the thing. Why does someone always have to have? Why do they constantly have to have dirt on someone? Why can't everyone just get along? Because maybe that doesn't sell newspapers. So you have to
Exactly
have.
why.
So you have to have this narrative out there that
Mhm.
someone's doing this and someone's doing that. How? I mean, back in the day when the kings went out and queens and things like that and did whatever, the princes, it wasn't leaked to the tabloids. I mean, it was, what Charles did was what Charles did. Yeah, he was a playboy because he allegedly went out with all these women, but I mean, they didn't have to make a deal with the press. And what kind of horseshit is that? I mean,
I think what has happened is society has changed.
oh
So
yeah, of course.
when you look back to, like, let's say when Elizabeth and Philip were young and Margaret and that whole, the narrative that people were interested in was perfection and
Mm-hmm.
royalty
Yep.
and pretty shiny things,
Teacups,
and yes, and tea parties, and this illusion of
Camelot.
wholesome. Yes, oh, that's the perfect word, Camelot. And what they found over time, and I think it started probably in the 80s, around there with Diana and stuff. And what people wanted was not that. They wanted to see the downfall
Mm-hmm.
of perfection. They were into all the, misbehaving, and the rules were changing on society.
Mm-hmm.
Women started to have more of a voice, and I mean, just everything changed, and they weren't selling papers, and they weren't, you have to not just sell it for the media to make money, but for the royals to make money, they need tourism. They need people constantly interested. And there are those people that I would consider myself one of these people. I'm interested in the history. I'm interested in seeing the buildings, the castles, just where history happened. But there's a lot of other people, new generations coming up that are interested in the other stuff, the
Mm-hmm.
drama, the cat biting, the whatever, so yeah, I think they just had to shift, and it was like a quid pro quo between
I mean,
the
look,
media and the
Margaret
family.
Margaret gave them all, the royal family, a run for their money. I mean,
Mhm.
she was worse than Harry ever was, or William, or any of them. I mean, with the drugs and the drinking and the men and
Mhm.
all of that. So,
Bucking the system
yeah,
constantly.
constantly. But they didn't feed her to the press. Philip is rumored to have one affair after another, even into his 80s.
Mhm.
And it was never reported.
No, no, because
They had Harry snorting coke in the back field, losing his virginity, being
acting
mounted.
like, but a lot about Harry was leaked,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, I think, Diana, Harry, and when you think about it, yeah, it was rare. Like, if you compare the two boys, I mean, I remember seeing positive stuff about William,
Mm-hmm.
and just how handsome he was and all his, his sporting activities, and, like, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember hearing a lot of rumors. I do
No.
for sure
Mm-mm.
remember the
Mm-mm.
rumor mill around Harry.
Yeah, and the thing of it is recently some of the pictures of William and Kate partying and drunk have resurfaced, have hit the internet, but I don't remember those out at the time.
No, I mean, I remember a little bit, but it was still like the angle was, oh, they're like so in love,
In
young
college,
couple.
yeah.
Yeah, just doing their thing, like, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, Harry, does he have a cocaine problem? Was this cocaine? Philanderer. I just vividly remember that, thinking
Mm-hmm.
for sure he was a party boy, and William was just,
Mr.
you know,
Perfect.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. That's what I remember anyway.
I love that. The people that say, okay, William doesn't look like this anymore. He needs to start acting like how he looks. And they compare the pictures.
It is quite a shift.
It is quite a shift. I mean, he was adorable.
Time has not
It's
been
another thing
his
he's
friend.
probably jealous over that Harry got the looks into his
Oh,
30s.
all of it.
Mhm.
All of it. I mean, think about it. You've had this freaking, you know, even Harry called him his mega nemesis or nemesis or what
Biggest
was it?
arch nemesis. Yeah.
Arch nemesis. There you go. I mean, and beloved brother. I
Mhm.
mean, it's the tit for tat. But, you know, you can imagine that the resentment just grows and grows.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's human nature. I think when you're especially in this bubble and constantly being told from the time that you're very young how important you are, you
Or how
know,
important you're not.
yes. And, you know, the shine is being has been taken away from William
Mhm.
quite a bit. I mean, Harry was more likable. He always was. And Meghan certainly is,
Mhm.
you know, period. And they none of them like it. I even heard, I think he kind of touched on even Camilla and Charles. There
Mhm.
was jealousy there,
Yeah.
you know, of the narrative being taken away from them and them not being the shiny thing to look at.
He also said that initially Charles was smitten with Meghan and that he really enjoyed her and he enjoyed how educated she was and the conversations he held with her. It wasn't until Camilla got in his head, went out the window when the rumors started.
Which where have we seen that before?
Yeah, exactly. With his,
I mean,
she ruined Charles's marriage to Diana, which I firmly stand by. If she would have went away, said, "Don't contact me again. I'm going to live my life." Eventually, Charles would have gotten over it.
maybe. I don't disagree with that.
Listen, you never get over the love of your life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you then learn to accept what's in front of you rather than how long do I have to be here before I can go hook up with Cammy over there.
Yeah, I do believe he would have continued to have affairs though, because he did.
They all do. William has.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
bring that to light.
I know. There's no talk there.
No.
No media there.
Mm-mm.
I mean, the media that we're you know, that kind of stuff that we're getting is what I've noticed anyway is there's American media that is, you know, with social media now, a lot more can circulate. You don't have to
Mhm.
just rely on the press of a certain country.
Mm-mm.
So there's that. But I think the people that are friendly towards Harry and Meghan, they're on it. They're looking for it. Like they want to get everything that they can. And so I think we're gonna see more and more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said that I'm looking up my notes really quick. So that was another big thing that he admitted that neither boys, William or Harry, wanted his dad to marry Camilla.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought was, listen, we want you to be happy. You seem happy.
What's the point?
We don't think this is the right thing to do for our family, for the country, you know, for there we don't see the purpose behind it. Ultimately, he did it anyway. And they supported him, but there definitely was not a desire there. They didn't like that decision at all. And he felt that the plus side to it could be that she would be less dangerous, was his words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That if she's
So-
happy and she gets what she wants, she'll leave us all alone.
And stop leaking things
Mm-hmm.
to help, you know, improve her image.
Right.
Which I fully believe was happening. You know, again, a quid pro quo. You help me and I'll help you.
Mhm.
There you go. It's just crazy, this game they have to play. I'm like,
It really is. It's really like it was funny when I don't know, was it Anderson Cooper said or was it Michael Strahan that said Game of Thrones?
yeah, I think it was Michael Strahan.
Yeah, and he said, "Well, I don't watch Game of Thrones, but definitely dragons."
Yeah, definitely dragons. But it is, you know, but the sad part to me is that at the end of the day, you're right. They are a family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the people that criticize this, well, that's your family. That's your family. Well, why aren't you criticizing the others as much as you're criticizing him? We all, as a world, we saw what was happening to Meghan.
Right.
We saw what the media was doing to her. We saw these horrific headlines that were coming out, and we all noticed, at least I did, that it was crickets from the
Mm-hmm.
palace.
Yeah.
And
Silence is
betrayal.
yeah.
So don't sit here and bitch about Harry betraying his family. His family has betrayed him over and over and over again. And it didn't start with Meghan,
No.
but it ended with Meghan.
Yes, it did.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back for him.
And honestly, I have more respect for a man that stood up for his wife in the against the royal that stood up against the royal family to protect his wife, for his wife's reputation, which is really why he's doing all of this. He wants the world to know it wasn't Meghan. And to go up against some sort of machine, give them the middle finger and say, I'm out.
Yeah.
This is my wife. I will defend her. That is the nobility at its finest. I mean, like, oh my God, chivalry is not dead.
That's a prince.
That's a prince right there. That's the royal prince. That's the guy who should be king.
Absolutely. I agree with that so much. I feel the same way. You know, I mean, they were even angry with him. They weren't willing to defend her or protect her. So
No.
he did.
Yeah.
He initially started it with
His press
own
release.
address.
Yeah.
Yes. And they were pissed at him for that.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, at what point do we say this is no longer about whatever institutional rules you have, and it's about control and whatever you want to call it towards Meghan?
Mhm.
You know, being just pissed off that he would betray his duty,
Mhm.
you know, which I'd like to remind everyone, they both were willing to continue on with their duties.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they gave it a try. All of this stuff was going on before the wedding. The royal family is lucky that he didn't just bounce and say, "Let's go get married in Vegas and take up residence there." You know, they gave it a try. They really tried. They put themselves for years. 6 years. Until they really had enough. I mean,
yeah. And even when they were going to leave the country, it was still, listen, we want to continue our royal duties.
Mm-hmm. But we'll fund it on our own, so that way it's not public interest. They don't have to cover us.
Yeah, exactly. And that wasn't okay either. I mean, there was no winning. There was no winning. Do we want to touch really quickly on Nick Viall?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
What do you think? I don't know. Listen, I don't want to it's not like I want to come for him so much specifically.
Well, I don't either. Because
he's a good example of something that bothers me, is just stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Stay in your fucking lane.
It makes me question, okay, are you just talking badly about them because you want people to follow you and listen to what you have to say because you diagnose everybody else in the world? I mean, it's wrong and
it's disingenuous
it
because
is.
You're trying to tell me that you have any real interest. Well, no, he says it. He says, I really don't care. Well, then why are you fucking talking about it?
Why are you talking bad about them?
Yeah, you don't know these people. You haven't invested any time. I'm not saying any of us know them, but I'm saying you haven't invested in their story, and he's admitting to that when he talks about it, because it's not like he's ever showed any interest prior or anything,
No, he's talking about it to get people to listen to his podcast.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so all right.
Not that we aren't, but hey, it's what we've been talking about it.
But that's the thing. We have a shown interest in it we were talking about this from the time we started doing the podcast together. I mean, it's something that we've shared an interest in.
Yeah.
The royal family completely. Yeah. It's just, he's one of many. He's not the only one.
No.
And maybe I'm just being a little too protective of them.
Well,
but it's like, you have no stake in this game at all.
Right.
It just seemed kind of cocky. And like I said, disingenuous. And
for someone, okay, so for someone who is a 40-year-old man dating and living with a 21-year-old girl, I would probably not throw the daggers around, because when Scott Disick was doing it, he got called a child molester and a pervert and a whole bad battery of other things. So why is it okay for Scott Disick but not Nick Viall to be called those things? Don't call attention to yourself with the negative press. I mean, people can pick Nick apart also. He's the first one to admit he's not perfect. And I get it. It's journalism. Everybody has a right to their own opinion.
Yeah.
But, he's carried this on now for quite a few episodes. So it's like, make your point and move on if you're not invested in it.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, to bring it up because it's a hot topic, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you're, just because we talk about all kinds of things that we're not really like a huge fan of or anything, but it's just the hot topic, hot news.
We don't beat them to death. We don't
no.
Yeah.
And my thing is too, it's like you're just putting your foot into whatever puddle is hot for the moment, regardless of if it has anything to do with your brand, your actual interests, I don't know.
What did you say that Nick reached out to Megan and never heard from her?
No, so I was making the joke because of Pierce Morgan's beef with Megan, because they went on an actual date.
Okay.
And I don't know if people know about this, so I want to just
Megan went out with Pierce Morgan?
Megan and Pierce Morgan had a date. He has talked about, look it up. You can see him actually talking about it. They had a drink together. It was not like a huge deal, but he asked her out and she went out with him.
Prior to Harry, or shortly, what's the timeline there?
Prior to Harry and not that long before Harry.
Okay.
And then she ghosted his ass. Like, that was it. And he talked about it in a kind of fun way at first, or at least that's the vibe I got. But then he got nastier and nastier and nastier towards her. Now, he is a royalist for sure. Mm-hmm. And that's always been his. And I don't hate Pierce Morgan. I actually, over the years, there's been times that I enjoyed listening to some of, but now he's like gone way too far down the rabbit hole with the royalist stuff. And when Meghan came on board, oh boy, because that's the thing. He was talking kind of, sorry, I just made a big old noise. He was talking kind of, like I said, funny, haha, yeah, I went out with her, the girl in Suits. And then when she got involved with Harry, oh, it was gloves off, baby. He comes for her hard.
She probably went out with him for a drink, met him for a drink to be polite.
Oh, I'm sure. But like a lot of men, that are rejected. But so my comment for Nick was, I thought you knew about that. So I was saying, well, maybe she went on a date with him and then never called again, ghosted him. And so he's pissed. But I liked your point even better. Maybe he tried to reach out to them for the podcast and they rejected him.
Because last week, wasn't he singing a different tune?
No, everything I've heard him say about them.
Is it? I haven't been paying attention.
I'll go back and look, but yeah, everything and let me just say, the thing I like about Nick, because I've said before,
he doesn't go with the grain. He goes against. Nick is not afraid to speak his mind.
No, but he's also kind.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that he was part of Bachelor. I've said that before. And I just enjoyed his content. And I felt like he was a kind man that like was leading with good intention. Mm-hmm. Especially when he's giving advice and, things like that. Like he's gone through things in his life and he's trying to actually, help other people. And that's what attracted me to him, so I don't know. This just wasn't on brand for him, I guess, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, it's a little bit weird, but
yeah,
we'll see. Yeah. Well, the ride has just begun. I mean, the Netflix special was a pre-Super Bowl party, basically. It was like the playoffs. Mm-hmm. These interviews, I mean, in 20 minutes, the full Michael Strahan interview is going to air. I'm going to watch it.
I'm going to watch it.
And then tomorrow we have the book. I know it's the book was released in Spain 5 days ago, which is why there's all these leaks.
Oh, okay.
But it was funny. I was watching one of the something on TikTok, and it was the bunch of the British people, and they said that you have all these British reporters going through their Spanish English dictionaries trying to figure out what everything is to translate it. And the one guy was talking about he actually liked Harry and Meghan, and so I was like siding with them, and he said that he read in the book that Harry's penis got frostbite, and he had that's at William and Kate's wedding, and he said, he's like, I was going through my translator. He said, so Harry, he said, if it's not your penis and it was your thumb, I'm sorry, it was the translation.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of why I said I want to read it.
Yeah.
Because who knows what we're getting? I mean,
I cannot wait to download that audiobook. And I just hope that I am not too busy tomorrow at work because I want to listen to it. Those people better not fuck with me.
I've got important podcast stuff to do.
Yeah, I got to listen to Harry's voice.
I know. I love that he's going to be doing the audio.
Probably come home and rape my husband. Who, by the way, came home very upset last night.
Why?
I am not hiding snacks from you.
Oh shit.
He wouldn't talk to me for a couple of minutes, and that's rare. And I was like, I'm sorry. I said,
of everything we've said, that's what got him.
Really? Like that's what's frost your ass over there? He said, it's just simply not true. I go, like, you don't run your mouth about me and bitch about your old lady to the guys at work. He goes, that's different. It's not on a podcast. I go,
well, listen.
I said, would you like me to issue a formal apology? And he said, that would be very nice. So if you've made it to this part of the podcast, I am issuing a formal apology for thinking that you were hiding the Pringles up where I could not reach them instead of at eye level. I am very sorry to accuse you of such a thing.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah.
That really hurt his feelings. Mm-hmm. I would not hide food from you. My husband, however, would be like, yep.
He would own it.
He would. I will say, if it was something that I really loved, he wouldn't.
Yeah.
That's why it makes it so funny, because he hides stuff from us that we don't even care about.
Right.
But he loves it so much. It's like, what do you think? I'm going to wake up tomorrow and just magically love this thing again? Like, love this thing that I never liked? Yeah, it's just funny.
All right. Well, on that note, we are going to wrap this up. I will probably do some small minor tweaking and then it will roll. If there's some too much heavy breathing or a or a hum or and too many ums there, it's probably because I'm not doing that big of a job editing this, so I can fly out of the nest tonight.
That's awesome. And then we can maybe get some clips up too, which now that I have my laptop, eventually you'll be able to teach me how to do that so I can help you.
I could always walk you through it. But yeah. Just let me know what you want.
TikTok is loving it.
Yeah, they are. People have been listening to our other episodes that are not about Harry and Meghan also. So that makes me feel like people actually like us. So I'm happy about that.
Well, I like them too.
If this is the way we had to go get them in, hey, why, so be it.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to talk about.
Me too. I mean, we both got up at 5 a.m. for Harry and Meghan's wedding. I mean, nobody else did, so.
I got crumpets. I had tea. It was a thing.
I bought a teapot.
Yes, it was a thing. Okay. I had a straight up tea party for one. And yes.
And if you didn't live an hour away at the time, I would have been at your house having tea with you.
Yep. And let me tell you something, that went on, well, really for days, but the actual wedding, that was hours and hours. That was like the whole day.
Yeah.
And you couldn't peel me away from the TV.
Me either.
And I was the same with William and Kate.
Me too.
Like there's nothing any of it, all of it and any of it.
To me, it's the history. And Wyatt always makes fun of me because I will sit and watch the funerals. And when Ashton he wasn't born yet. I was pregnant. I was on bed rest. And Ronald Reagan died. I literally, the man left for work. And when he got home at 11 o'clock at night, I was still on the couch watching the funeral. And he's like, you're still watching this. I watched it for days. It's not about, like Phillips and Queen Elizabeth. It's not about the person itself per se, but it's about watching history to me.
Absolutely.
The other day he says to me, the other Pope died. He said, are you going to call off on Thursday to watch the funeral? I'm like, nah, I don't care about him. So I'll catch the replay on YouTube.
Clips.
Well, on that note, thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, head over to our website. I don't know why. Our stuff's there. So, Instagram, TikTok, you know where to find us.
Give us those likes and follows.
Fokker out.
Bye.
Bye.